Good evening. It's Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, and this is the Bob Leonard Show. We'll be with you for about an hour, and we take the stories you've been watching on television this week and reading in the newspaper, and we try to go behind the story and give you the real insight into what's that all about. We give the story behind the story. And like we tell you every week, it's only our opinion, and you can accept or reject it. But obviously, we're going to have our say. Now, if you miss tonight's program, it will be repeated on tomorrow night, Wednesday night, from 12 to 1. So if you can stay up late and you missed it tonight, you can watch it tomorrow night. Or if you have a computer, you just have to punch in anytime you want into flinttalk.com. And you choose the program you want to see. They're all listed there, and it starts from the beginning and runs to the end. So we're on numerous places, and you have numerous opportunities to see it. But we have a number of stories we want to talk to you about tonight. It includes Burton, and it includes what's going on with the senior citizen money, which I want to talk to you about briefly. Now, you know, when this senior citizen proposal came up, we were somewhat skeptical about it and actually opposed it. We said it wasn't properly set up, and that there had to be a lot of more preliminary work to be done before it was officially put into effect and be effective. And at that time, we told you that we felt that a lot of this money would be misused, and we suggested that the money would be going to various centers that are ongoing now for higher salaries for the directors and more employees, and that's what's happened in many cases. But there are some programs that we felt were necessary if the millage was passed that could be very helpful to senior citizens. And one of them is a proposal that has been made by probate court judge Jenny Barkey, Sheriff Bob Packel, some social organizations in the county that I think might have some very effective programming for senior citizens. And one of them was proposed, just submitted this last week. It's a proposal called Elder Abuse and Exploitation Prevention. And that really talks about how we can use some of the senior citizen money, millage, to help people who are older, maybe a little senile, maybe they don't have much help from relatives, maybe their relatives are all gone, and nobody seems to care about them, and people, unscrupulous people, are taking advantage of them. So the sheriff and the probate judge and the prosecutor and some social organizations put a proposal in last week for the purpose of dealing with these problems, dealing with senior citizens' problems who are being ripped off, and to prevent them from being ripped off, and also for keeping tabs on what's happening in nursing homes, making sure that there's no abuse occurring that you may never hear about, because many of the people in nursing homes have no relatives, have no visitors. So you have to rely on the good graces of the nursing home to do a good job. And there are a lot of good nursing homes in the area too, but there are a lot of bad ones. And this program is designed, as I understand it, and we'll discuss it with these individuals in just a moment, designed to deal with these problems, to take care of the citizens who either can't take care of themselves or have nobody to help take care of them. So we met with probate judge Jenny Barkey and Sheriff Bob Packel today to discuss this proposal they're making, what it specifically will deal with, how much it will cost, and where does it go from here? And so we had this discussion today. Can you play that tape, please? Yeah, just recently there has been a lot of discussion about the use and the proper use of the senior citizens millage that we enacted last year that gives us about $7-8 million a year for the purpose of taking care of senior citizens and the elderly. Now, I noticed that Judge Barkey and Sheriff McHale, who are here, submitted a proposal for elder abuse and exploitation prevention in regard to funding from that the Senior Citizen Fund. Can you tell us, Judge Barkey, what that is all about?
Well, it's a collaborative effort between the probate court, the Sheriff's Department, and the Prosecutor's Office, in which we've come together to address what is a huge problem in our community. I wasn't on the bench more than a couple months that I began to discover by reviewing files that a certain attorney, Shannon Pitcher, who was pled guilty to a felony count of embezzlement, was taking money from under the auspices of being appointed a fiduciary for someone who didn't have anybody else to take care of them, was stealing money, not using it for the benefit of the ward, but using it for her own benefit. And we have that in our community. Also, we have relatives that are doing the same things to their loved ones. And there are people out there that do not have any relatives that are being befriended by others, wanting to become their conservator or guardian, and then find themselves also being victimized. So when I started discovering that, well, the first thing I did with Shannon Pitcher's case is I called Sheriff McHale, and he assigned investigators, and the rest is history. Finally, we do have her pleading guilty, and she'll be sentenced in November by Judge Fullerton. But that's not an isolated incident. I'm not proud to say that, but it happens a lot. So we came together to write a grant, and it's going to have some really important components. Number one, it's going to have a social worker that visits people who are under an order for guardianship to make sure that their guardian conservator is doing what needs to be done. Also, auditors. Every person that's responsible for the money of another person has to file an accounting already, but it pays for the audits to make sure the canceled checks are there for every single expenditure. And then it funds part for the sheriff, which he can elaborate on, that investigators will go out when we find something suspicious going on, and if something is being done not in this person's best interest to their detriment, that they can be prosecuted, which is the end component.
Now, as the probate judge in Genesee County, just what function does the judge play in regard to these elderly people that have this situation? I mean, you appoint administrators and...
I appoint the people who are actually responsible for these individuals. So if Sheriff McHale needs a guardian and he has no one, Adult Protective Services could file a petition. Someone might come forward, or I wish we had a public guardian to appoint, but I would appoint someone to be in charge of his person, but also be in charge of his finances. Then after that, an accounting's done every year. I review it. That's how I caught Shannon Pitcher. But by reviewing these accounts, you see that money isn't being spent where it's supposed to be. And so I have the oversight responsibility. What was lacking is the enforcement end. When I did find something wrong, who is going to go out and make sure this stops with that person, and plus send a very clear message out that this isn't going to happen in Genesee County to our elderly, vulnerable people. We take care of those people. And that's the component that was missing. That's what
you're requesting funding from the senior citizen millage that was just passed.
Yes.
For purposes of putting this program into effect, is that right?
My part would be for the auditors, and my part would also be for the social worker that goes out and checks on these people and notifies me. And from there, we turn it over to the sheriff, or from there, we'll turn it over to the...
Now, this funding would be to pay the salaries and whatever resources they need of these people that would be doing this work that you're speaking of.
Correct.
Okay. Now, Sheriff Lee, Judge Barkey mentioned that you have a role in this, and I guess it's really kind of a new concept. You have a role in this program. What exactly is this role that you have?
My role is the enforcement, the investigative and the enforcement of abuse. The key component of this program is the Center for Gerontology, and we're going to have a woman, we're going to contract with them, and they're going to give us a woman who's very experienced in guardianship. She goes out to this guardian reviews. As soon as she finds one of her reviews that an elder is being abused, or somebody's stealing, somebody's abusing her physically, mentally, she's going to let the judge know. The judge will know, and we'll be on it right away. The whole purpose of this grant, as the judge said, is the message is going to be, don't abuse elders, or you're going to get prosecuted and you may go to jail.
All right. What staff would you have to have additionally now for this program?
In addition to the Center for Gerontology, the director of the program will be the person with the advanced degree in geriatrics at the Center for Gerontology. She'll have 2 social workers, and I'm going to have an investigator assigned to that part of the program. They're all going to be housed. We're going to be able to get housing at a reasonable price out at the Center for Gerontology. So with a team, it will be a team concept. Along with this will be there'll be a team of vertical prosecutors out of the prosecutor's office that will take these cases and try all of the cases, all of the search warrants that we may need, and then ultimately, warrants, and then they'll be trying the case in court. We get complaints every single day in here from APS, Judge Barkey, about seniors being abused. But it's been going on. It's a daily thing, and we really don't have a unit set up. These are the cases that kind of fall between the cracks. We keep to Judge Barkey's attention, and she has to get all of the credit for this, because as soon as she was only a judge for a very, very short time. I mean, for the weeks, and Shannon Pitcher came to her attention. I mean, she didn't pull any punches. She got on the phone and said, I think this is what's going on. I want it investigated. And the investigation took a little while to do because it was so complex. She had taken from so many different people. And then finally, when we got out to the house, we found $100,000 buried in the backyard. But you see, this is only one case. It's going on all of the time. So what we're going to do, rather than being reactive, we're going to be proactive in protecting our elderly. And we'll do that through the guardian review, the social workers, once we find out that, there has been abused or is being abused, and we'll start the investigation. It'll be a team approach all going at one time.
Yes, I know in your proposal, I noticed in your proposal that you talk about the nursing homes and things like that. What are you going to do about the problem that we have in some nursing homes, and we've seen it ourselves from time to time? We've done stories on it about people in nursing homes who have no relatives, or the people who are relatives are unconcerned and never visit, and there's no one checking on them. Are you going to do something about that?
Yeah. One of the concerns that I have, I think, as an individual, and again as the sheriff, and I know the judge shares this concern. We have many elderly folks that are in nursing homes. Many of them are in their, initial steps of dementia or of Alzheimer's, and they're easily a prey for hustlers and scammers and con artists.
They can be abused.
Very easily be physically abused. I know we've prosecuted a woman that worked in a nursing home that abused a woman, and ultimately she died. We couldn't prove that the abuse ultimately caused her death, but we prosecuted that. So what we want to do is we want to go into these nursing homes, and we want to make sure that our elderly are being cared for in those nursing homes properly and not being abused. And we'll do that, and we'll work with the court and with APS and all of the different organizations as well as the Center for Gerontology. We don't like the lost, many of them wants to get those nursing homes with lost citizens. But we don't want to forget about that.
That's the beauty of the Center for Gerontology, too, specifically relating to Diane Nims. Right when I had been judge very long, we had attorneys going out doing these reviews, but also Center for Gerontology. And when I saw Diane Nims' thorough, comprehensive reports, that's when I pulled up and started having her do them. The good thing about her, she'll go into these homes, and if, for example, this happens a lot, is that I make someone, usually a relative, guardian for their mother, father, elderly person. They'll put them in a nursing home, all right? And then the whole rest of the family moves into their home, all right? And what happens is somebody's in a nursing home that doesn't really need to be there, that they have enough assets that they've accumulated that they could live with some, with caregivers coming in their own home and those kinds of things. Diane's really good at spotting those situations. She's also very good at spotting situations where nursing homes are not taking the best care of folks. It could be better. And she points that out to me. Now we'll have a tool to do something about it, number one. Number two, it's always good for those people to know that somebody's watching, because before, nobody was watching for these elderly people, and nobody was reporting it. And if they were, nobody had the opportunity to do something about it. Now we will have that opportunity.
If I'm right, the judge won't say it, but she was the one that made the observation about Diane Nims, how professional and the insight that she has into these problems. Judge Barkey immediately contacted the Center for Gerontology, Linda Gibson, Mike James, and she worked out an agreement where Diane Nims will come over, will contract with them, and she'll be on the team, and she's going to supervise it. And we think it's just wonderful that Linda Gibson, Mike James, and the Center for Gerontology are going to share Diane's skills with this, and they should get a lot of credit for that.
Go ahead.
No, that's just agreeing with the sheriff, absolutely.
Okay. What is the status of your application for funding on this program, and what's the timetable?
Well,
Is that the proposal?
this is the proposal. As you can see, it's a rather voluminous proposal. We read the deadline was just about a week ago, and we met that deadline, and now it's before the Planning Commission for consideration. It will be reviewed by the Planning Commission. They have reviewers look at it. If it passes all of the exacting requirements that they have and it meets program needs, my understanding is they'll move it to the Millage Commission, the senior commission that they just recently appointed. If they approve it, then it will be moved on to the Board of Commissioners for final approval. I'm hoping within the next 45 days that we'll be able to have funding for this program and get up and get going.
What do you think the cost of this program will be?
Well, if they fund all of the people that we have in the grant, including all of the investigators and social workers, it'll be maybe just a little bit over $1 million, but that includes all of the salaries, the fringe benefits, the housing, the cars. It's a very, very, very comprehensive program.
Okay. All right, well, I appreciate it. I certainly support the concept because we've talked about this before on our program, that we think it's a very meaningful project. There are people out there that need a lot of help, and as a citizen, I appreciate the effort that you people are making.
I'd like to, before we go off the air. I'd like to, David Layton, our prosecutor, wasn't able to be with us today. He had another commitment. But he is an integral part of this program. And it's important that we have that prosecution component. You as a former prosecutor understand that, the arrest is one thing. Getting a conviction is another. And David's participation in this will be very, very important.
Oh, I think he showed his hand completely with the wonderful way he handled the Shannon Pitcher case.
Thank you.
Well, like I said at the beginning here, and have said since this millage was approved, there will be programs that are proposed which are very meaningful to senior citizens, protecting them, helping them, whether it's health, whether it's food and clothing, whatever it is. They're important. And this is equally important because it deals with people often who can't help themselves. And I think that this proposal by Judge Barkey and Sheriff Pickell and Prosecutor Layton and the social agencies involved in this community go a long way to dealing with that very serious concern. And I must say that I frankly believe when you look around the country, this is groundbreaking. This is something new. And I hope that we can get it going and make sure that our senior citizens are better protected than they are without this program. So I look forward to watching what happens to it, see how it proceeds through the bureaucracy and see whether or not we can get it moving, and I'm sure if it is, it will be very helpful to citizens. We just think it's a good program. It's money well spent from the senior millage, and it directly impacts the people the millage was supposed to help, and that's the senior citizens. So good luck with that program. Let's go on here now. We have, tonight we have a story that we're going to spend some time on because it really shows you how your government works and how the people who are involved in making it work, or supposed to be making it work, use various devious means to hopefully avoid you finding out what they're doing. And this story tonight that we want to discuss with you and show you what happened last night when we covered it involves the city of Burton. And it's about Mayor Charles Smiley, that we've mentioned many times on this program, continuing to use of the Burton City Hall as his own little candy store on behalf of his friends and his contributors, his travel companions, and against the best interest of the Burton taxpayers and citizens. And we'll show you what we mean with this. It is clearly demonstrated on what happened last night at a meeting we attended. Now, this latest sellout that I'm talking about of Burton citizens by Smiley to his friends, to his contributors, to his travel companions, continues unabated. Just last week, when another of Smiley's good friends, two good friends, one by the name of John Zitto, and another by the name of Neil March, who owned the Zitto Construction Company, and it deals with concrete crushing business. And they wanted a change of zoning so they could enlarge their business. This was over the heated opposition of the residents living in the area. Now, when you look at Smiley's campaign contribution filing, it lists this Martz and Zitto as major contributors over the years to his campaigns for mayor. And keep in mind, all the Planning Commission members are appointed by Smiley. So I think, in my opinion, the fix was in on this deal. Smiley let his zoning or his planning commissioners know what his thoughts were, and they went along with it. Now, here's the Flint Journal's articles on this. It says here, companies seeking rezoning to expand. And it talks about the City Planning Commission on Tuesday will consider a request by Zitto Construction to rezone land on Red Arrow Road, which is the dividing line of the City of Flint and the City of Burton. They want to rezone the land on Red Arrow Road for a cement crushing plant. And it says here, many neighbors who have experienced flooding and complained about noise oppose the move. The rezoning will allow Zitto to use more of the property to store materials and add a storage building. And then this is the indication that the company would seek the rezoning, and I say to you that this thing was fixed all the way through. And then it says, as I suggest, Burton planners back rezoning. Surprised? Keep in mind, these are Smiley's friends, and they're friends of a number of the people on the council that we'll get to in just a minute. And even though large groups of people from the neighborhood oppose it, these two people wanted it. They were friends of Smiley. They're financial contributors to him, his campaigns. They're friends of some of the people like Ralph LeDuc and Gary Isham, who are on the city council and running for election here in November. And they just ignored what the people wanted, in my opinion. You know, at last night's city council meeting, and here, let me just briefly refer to the Burton planners back rezoning, and here's what one of the things that happened. It says the city inspection report from 205 said, quote, the process of crushing concrete is causing silt to run into storm drains, and recommended the company comply with its 201 site plan and build a silt fence. The fence has not been installed according to the neighbors and city records. And that's why the zoning board itself twice recommended against the rezoning, but the planning commission, which are all handpicked by Smiley, recommended that the rezoning be allowed. Now, as I say, at last, night city council meeting where the planning commission met, where this matter of rezoning came up for a vote, there was a clear demonstration of which city Burton council people were in effect bought off by Mayor Smiley and their friends Zitto and Martz, and which council people were doing their duty and representing the people. There was a large turnout of citizens who opposed the rezoning of the concrete company's intended objectives. And the large group of people were attending the meeting, and many spoke out against it. Many talked and gave many anecdotal stories about the serious health problems they have incurred since living there because of the concrete company's cement debris that is circulating in the air, and they were upset that the company had failed to abide by the 2001 agreement they had. And then the Smiley administration's refusal to demand the company comply with their prior promises not to create these kinds of problems. They failed to do that. Now they're asking for additional adjustments. Here, the rezoning with more promises. Even the city's public works director, Strasser, recommended against the rezoning because of the problems the city has had in the years past and is having with the company today. Now, I want you to hear some of the things some of these homeowners, these residents, had to say last night when speaking to the city council in opposition to rezoning. Now, we're going to take some time so you can hear this because it is government in action and government ignored. These people had something to say. They obviously had some very good points, but the fix was already in. These people sitting in the council, the Duke, Majors, and Gary Isham, they've already had their minds made. They were friends of these guys. Let's listen to what some of these people had to say. And there was 15 or 20 of them that spoke, but we're going to hear from a few of them now. Can you play that tape, please?
Good evening. My name is Carol Popovich, and I reside proudly at 701 East Denville Road in Flint, Michigan. Once again, we're here. Mr. Major, I do remember you, and I do remember Lori 10 from the last time. Mr. Major, you did come to us last time and speak to us on the flip side when we were distressed about hearing about what was happening on the Burton side. We thought we were neighbors. We thought you cared about us like we cared about you. And it wasn't from you that we learned about this travesty is coming again to our neighborhood. We learned from our neighbors in Burton who came to us and told us, do you know what Burton is doing to you? You have not consulted our mayor. You have not consulted Scott King, our councilman. Why are you doing this and not consulting your neighbor? We're displeased with you and upset to have this. We are the ones that are going to be looking at this out of picture windows. We are the ones that are going to be trying to pull out of our driveways with your big travel trucks coming down the road. We are the ones who are going to lose value in our homes. Who would want to buy my home that my husband and I just put $15,000 into this summer to improve? And who wants to buy it and have gravel trucks walking down the road and to look at the cement factory across there? That's not fair to us, ladies and gentlemen. We work hard for our money. And we expected you to be good neighbors to us as we have been to you. We have new neighbors in the church there. Bethany Baptist Church, we're so thrilled. Divine Ministry has also opened up. We're bringing life into Burton. We're proud of you. But to put a cement, more industry into that area, that's not fair to us. We've worked too hard to make it a community. And we were here before Mr. Zito and Mr. Marks. They knew that when they bought the property. And in 2001, we were told by you that Mr. Marks and Mr. Zito could keep their little cement crushing factory going just to break up the cement on that property. I'm sorry, Lori knows. That's what we were told. Do you see what's out there? If there was that much cement on that property, I don't know how anything ever survived. There's mountains out there. I went on the internet today just to find out about cement dust. Have any of you done that yet? I'm sure you have. You're elected officials. I'm sure Mr. Major has. Do you know what cement dust does to people? street. That's what we were promised. That's what we were told by you, Mr. Major, at a meeting at the church. 2001, the Burton Planning Commission unanimously approved Zemar's combined application for special use approval and site plan review. This approval was based on Zemar's application, site plan, and stipulations that their own company proposed and provided to the city. February 15, 2005, 4 years later, the city inspector visited Zemar's construction site. His inspection notice reads, "Type of inspection, no silt fence." It appears about 5 acres on north side of the road was still in without permit. The process of crushing concrete is causing silt to run into storm drain. April 5, 2006, over 1 year after the inspector visit, an attorney representing the city sent Zemar a letter regarding their unfinished site plan. This is the same letter Mrs. Boggs presented to the council on April 2, 2007 with hopes of city action. The letter addresses violations such as the absence of fencing and screening ponds over 5 years ago and demands immediate action. Mr. Zito never responded to this letter. On April 25, 2006, a second notice was mailed out. On April 25, 2007, exactly 1 year after the first letter, or the last letter, the DPW sent Mr. Zito another letter of violation. The city evidence of 6 violations, leaving out the absent screening necessary to keep the concrete silt out of the town and city drains. The letter also points out a monument type sign at the southern corner of Dorrit and Railroad Road stating the sign is a violation of Burton sign ordinance and was constructed without a permit. This letter gives Mr. Zito 10 days to complete the violation. The letter states failure to comply on May 8, 2007 will result in further action. May 8, 2007 is deadline given by the city. Mr. Zito read response letter to Mr. Strauss who gives numerous excuses and reasons for non-compliance, stating his 2001 site plan is proposed to be modified. He also says he will immediately apply for site amendment and he may also choose to request variance for the location. It is now October 1st, 2007. No corrective action has been taken by Zemar. The sign is still in place, and again, no enforcement has been made by our city. In summary, the site plan, which was approved by the planning committee in 2001, was never followed, and I believe it was never intended to be. Judging by its previous actions, as well as the May 8, 2007 letter submitted by Mr. Zito to the city, he has purposely not followed our city's laws. Why are Mr. Marks and Mr. Zito exceptions to our city's rules?
Well, as you can see, there is some serious questions about the health issue. And I think the issue really resolves itself down to a health problem and not really a zoning issue. By that I mean the mayor should investigate the matter, and if the air quality is deteriorating in the neighborhood as suggested by some of these people because of the cement smashing work, the issue shouldn't be rezoning. It should be to determine if there's a health risk out there. Now having said this, what do you think the chances are that the Burton present mayor will take steps to check this out? He's in bed with these guys. They're good friends. They're traveling companions in some cases. They're campaign contributors. They're luncheon guests. You know, like his previous political incestuous relationships with people like land developer Blake Rizzo, Smiley continues to go to where the money is, not where his duty calls. Even 4 councilmen showed their colors last night on this issue. You know, after Smiley handpicked Planning Commission, rubber-stamped Smiley's desire to help his political friends, Zito and Mertz, the City Council, the next step in getting the rezoning wanted by Zito and Mertz went into effect. Enter Smiley's yes men on the county: Ralph LeDuc, Jeff Majors, Danny Wells, Gary Isham. Like we said, this present mayor, Smiley, will do nothing about closing this factory down if it's a health problem. He doesn't care. They haven't even checked that. You know, in Clio, they had a very similar problem. I think it was with a cement factory that was shut down because it was hazardous to the health of the residents of the neighborhood situated near the factory. And apparently, these council people really are unconcerned about this, and they'll stick with them, with their friends, stick with Smiley, stick with Zitto, stick with Martz, because they're the money men for these people. Remember their close relationship with the company that may be polluting the constituents' neighborhoods. That seems to trump their duty to the citizens. Now, it seems to me only Lori Tennant and Charlie Cross seem to understand their duty as public officials. They're there representing the people, not the single company. Here's what some of these council people said at last night's meeting when they supported Smiley's cement crushing friends and those supporting the citizens. I think you'll be able to easily pick out. So can you play those statements, please?
We know it today, with the mountain, 100-foot mountain concrete, can stay in compliance. I'm disappointed at times with the enforcement of our own DPW that they don't do their job and enforce these site plans. And if residents come to the city council, they go to us for answers, but being an administrative function, all we can do is listen and take their problems to the DPW. Why the sign's still there, I don't know. Why the site plan hasn't been enforced, I don't know. But I think as a council, we need to take a look at strengthening and keeping our ordinance as a mandate that these things get reviewed in a more timely fashion, because I thought that the zoning board had to read those minutes, did a good job putting together conditions to protect this site more than it hinders the site. This time we have no protection. We can stay where it's at, but the dirt, the soil, or the material that they build doesn't go on the other side of the area. That's the only thing that's going to change with this, is now that storage can go on one side of the arrow, but the crushing operation still stays. It's not going to improve the dust. It's not going to improve any of the conditions that exist today other than make the site look more pleasant. Okay? The rock record, you can get it very loud, but when the people was kind enough to tone it down and to even start doing the rock crushing during the cooler months so people's windows and doors were shut. Now, is that one of the conditions that we're talking about here?
We look at the hours, you were 5 a.m. and late at night, we put 6 to 6. So there is no 5 a.m., there is no late at night. We did put hours on it, but of the discussions we developed on the ZBA.
But I'm talking about seasonality as far as crushing the rock itself.
I can tell you this, the seasonality is dictated by the type of business. The crushing is done during the time of the year when you can't put loose baskets down. So the seasonality is somewhat weather-driven. You try and get all the merchandise out while the weather is good and while you can drive on some roads. And by the way, Hemphill is the same highway, and we're not going up to Hemphill. We're coming out on the North Highway, and we're going to freeway. So, to that extent, we don't have any more employees that are employed. They just do different jobs. They rush in the winter, they install in the spring. That's the way the system works. That's why you get the amount during those months. So it's seasonally driven.
I understand that. I have to go out there Wednesday and meet with Mr. Zeno and Mr. Martz. I wanted to see the operation as it sits today compared to what it was
was in 2001. I noticed a very clean site. Now, they knew I was coming on Wednesday. I guess they could have tidied it up, but there's a lot of stuff to move to tidy up for someone to come in there. I asked a lot of questions. I spent about an hour and 15 or 20 minutes with the gentleman. My concern is those residents that live around there. Because that business is not going to go away. I already talked to Mr. Austin. I already talked to Mr. Strasser. They can stay there and do what they're doing as long as they want, providing we don't shut them down because of some enforcement
by the administration. It doesn't exist. We would be in this position today. Remember, no offense meant. It's management. It comes from the top. The top is not doing their job. And that is the problem. I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm not picking on the mayor. I'm picking on the fact the administration doesn't do their job. If he's guilty, so be it. If it's Craig, so be it. If it's Dawson, so be it. That hasn't been done. They would be. I know that businesses always take care of their businesses and do the conditions that are set by the planning commission and zoning board of appeals. It's our job to go out there and do that. And I don't know why it's not done. I tried my best as public works director to enforce the conditions that were necessary to do under site plan review. It takes dedication to do that. I oppose some of these conditions that are now being met by the applicant. This conditional zoning application only improves the conditions out there. I concur with Mr. Leduc's finding. Denying it is not going to improve the situation out there because they can continue to exist. And if they are to be shut down, then they're going to comply with those conditions of the previous site plans. Voting denial is not going to improve the situation out there. You're still going to have a pile of concrete, whatever height exists out there. It's going to reduce those piles down. It's going to improve the site. I'm not going to change my position on how I'm going to vote on this. I voted in favor of the planning commission, or excuse me, the ZBA. I'm going to vote in favor of it again tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anything else from council?
I just want to say, Mr. President, that I think it's really a shame because we look at the people here. These are the people that should be something to us as elected officials. I'm really ashamed of all of that because even when you were when you were in the DPW job, you were there, you knew they were non-compliant, something should have been done then. Just don't blame it all on the top administration. It's the DPW all the way down. I work.
Well, I think what Laurie Tennant was getting to, which was here we had Leduc and Majors, both of them head of the DPW for some period of time. And this company, they're now touting, did not live up to their guarantees from 201. And now Leduc and Majors are blaming the new people who took over from them. Why didn't they do it when they had the chance? And Majors is talking about, well, whatever happens, we're still going to have the piles of concrete and what have you, and crushed concrete or cement or whatever it is. Yeah, we're going to have that unless we get somebody who says, gets in that, on that council, gets in that mayor's office and say, we're going to find out about the air quality that is being created by this crushing project. And if it's bad, you don't talk about reducing sound. You don't talk about piles of ugly-looking concrete. You don't talk about those things. You talk about closing a factory because people's health may be in jeopardy. That's what a government official is supposed to look out for when they're elected to office. Look out for the constituents. Not for this one company to make a buck while they possibly contaminate the air, causing serious illnesses. I think that's the issue here. in my opinion, these 4 council people, LeDuc, Majors, Wells, and Isham, they forsaked their constituents on behalf of this company without concern, apparently, for their health, the health problems. There was people that came up and talked about, one woman came up and talked about her grandson moving in with them. Never had an asthmatic problem, now has one. Man came up there with a machine that allows him to breathe, that's lived in that neighborhood for years and has had this problem with breathing because he feels some of it's caused by the deterioration of the air caused by this crushing company. And there was other people that came up with documentation that they had gotten regarding what this crushing does to the air, how it pollutes the air. The mayor of this city and these council people had an obligation to say, we're going to check that before we approve anything for this company, because if it's polluting the air, they're closing. What do you think the chances of Mr. Smiley doing that to one of his friends and big contributors? What do you think the chances of these 4 councilmen who are friends of Mr. Zitto and Mr. Martz? Mr. Martz worked for LeDuc when he was head of the Department of Public Works. He worked in there. And they're close friends. Frankly, these 4 people had their marching orders from Zitko, from Martz, from the mayor himself on what to do here. Listen to what Cross and Mr. Cross, Councilman Cross, and Councilwoman Timmons said about this situation. And they were the only 2 that voted against this rezoning. Can you play that, please?
Thank you. And enforcement, we gain more effect of our personal property tax. We're hundreds of dollars behind. Throughout, I have no comments. This administration enforce this. I don't care how we do it. They won't do it. This administration does do good enforcement. We're still doing that. So until we get good enforcement, I'm not going to lay the burden, more burden on, but they can't do the burden we put on them. We can change law we want, but they interpret it different when we do. So I'm telling you, I'm going to rely on my DPW's recommendation.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yeah, what I was going to say, Mr. President, thank you. If I'm understanding it correctly, this company actually should be shut down right now for being we are elected to protect the health, safety, and welfare, and I don't believe that I would have gone and purchased a home in that neighborhood this past year, and I don't believe that anybody that lives in this neighborhood could sell a home in that neighborhood because of what's going on. I'm not going to reward a company. Yeah, I want business in our city, and I want to keep our tax base low, and I think it's important so that we don't have to raise our taxes to have those tax rates, but we're not going to do it forsaking the health and safety and welfare of the citizens in this community. That's just totally ridiculous. And they brought up really good points tonight. I mean, my husband has asthma. I don't want to live in this community to do what's coming through the place. I mean, that's a very big health risk to everybody that lives there. I think that these people should be told immediately that they're going to comply with the site plan that they have not complied with for 5 or 6 years. We can enforce that. We really can. And I think that's what needs to be done. And I'm not going to reward them for being non-compliant. They didn't vote for it 6 times. They didn't believe that it was a when our planning official has already recommended you not.
I think they get it. They understand what their obligation is, and obviously they're not the good friends that the other four are with Mr. Zito and Mr. Martz. And these four have allowed that friendship and whatever else they get from them. They allow that to dictate what their decision is going to be over the best interests of the public. Now, I think any time elected officials do their duty, it's an eloquent example of democracy in action, and I think that's what you saw from Cross and Lori Tennant today. Now, here's the vote on the issue at last night's meeting that gave this company what they wanted, despite their history of failing to do what they promised to do in the past. Can you play that, please?
Moved by Mr. Major, and supported by Mr. Ledoux. Any questions? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll, please.
Excuse me, Mr. President.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to clarify, it is 12:31.
That is correct.
Mr. Isham?
Yes.
Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
No.
Mrs. Tennant? No. Mr. Ledoux?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Yes. Carried 4-2. This meeting is now adjourned.
Well, there you saw it. There was the so-called democracy in action that clearly was perverted. And if it was real democracy, those four council people would have been listening to the public. They don't care what they're saying. And that's why, and they get away with that because the general, like the television people, don't cover it. The Journal covers it, and the Journal reporter that covers it, I think, does a pretty damn good job out there. So you got to read his articles. They're in today's paper, and so here's the biggest gimmick of all. Council pursues charges. Mayor violated charter. Burton panel alleges. That's these four people that, or three of those people, voted to have the mayor investigated for violating the charter, whether it's a criminal violation. Lori Tennant opposed it, said this is politics. There's a mayor's race coming up. That's where to take care of it. And I think she's absolutely right. Well, we have a lot more we'll be discussing on this issue as time goes by. But our time has run out tonight, so we'll see you next week. And in the meantime, we'll be at the White Horse.